was late in the evening, and as always, I was tired and in my office working on another case. An email notification startled me. What's this? As a break from losing my battle against distraction, I opened the email.
Bible Sleuth, what do you believe? Signed, FC.
I started to respond, but I was bothered by FC's tone as if I could tell from an email. I held off responding. After several days passed, I found myself haunted by FC's question. Later that week, I received another email.
Bible Sleuth, I'm still waiting. What is the truth? FC.
He was expecting a response, but what to say? Was he threatening me? After some serious consideration, I decided I needed to go back and look up my old Sunday school teacher. I vaguely remembered studying the fundamentals of faith in her classroom, even though it was 50 years ago. I also had to get to the bottom of these emails, so I jumped in the old Suburban for a long trip back to that tiny church with a creepy basement classroom. Of course, I wanted to talk to my old Sunday school teacher, Mrs. Lake. Would I be able to find her? Was she even still alive? As far as Mrs. Lake, she was still sharp as ever. However, she was in her 90s and had forgotten most of that time. In fact, she wasn't even Mrs. Lake anymore, having been widowed for the second time recently.
The only one I can remember is, the Bible is the infallible Word of God.
So neither one of us could remember the fundamentals, except for the Bible is the infallible Word of God. Glad to have seen her again. I hugged her when I left, headed for the old church, not realizing how much had changed. I was raised in the Assemblies of God faith, a preacher's kid, so I've heard the Bible all my life. But I needed evidence to give to FC. The church didn't seem operational, but I wasn't willing to let my 20-hour drive go to waste, so I knocked on the door. It was unlocked, so I slipped in, wanting to see if that old classroom was still there. It almost looked like the church was being used as a residence, so I started to leave. Curiosity got the better of me, and I sneaked down the stairs to the basement. The basement was mostly converted into a living space, but the first classroom on the left was like stepping back in time 50 years. I twisted the old door handle. The musty smell hit me full in the face. As my eyes adjusted to the dark room with the only light being a small window, I spied some papers on a dusty shelf. The ventriloquist dummy lay on the shelf nearby. That's my old dummy. How'd it get here? I stepped over and reached for the papers and the doll.
Hey! What are you doing?
I nearly jumped out of my skin. I turned slowly so as not to scare the woman. I'm sorry, I used to go to this church. In fact, my dad was the pastor in the 70s. She stared at me warily. I handed her the papers. I came looking for curriculum on the fundamentals of faith that Mrs. Lake taught in this classroom. At the mention of Mrs. Lake, her eyes lightened.
Do you know her?
I just talked to her a little bit ago. Of course, I found out she isn't Mrs. Lake anymore. Sadly, she couldn't remember any more than I do. Having scared her thoroughly, I feared she was going to call the police as she mulled over my story.
Would you like a cup of coffee? You look tired.
We sat down and talked about how the church had combined with another church 6 miles away a few years back. She was the second pastor. Mrs. Lake's son was the first pastor of the combined church, so the name drop saved my bacon. I was back on the road, thankful I didn't get thrown in jail, and thankful for a cup of coffee. Unfortunately, I wasn't much further in my researches, but I had a plan. She had confirmed one thing. I needed to respond. I got back to my computer and fired off an email. I was armed with the one fundamental that I could recall. FC, I'm working on an answer to your question. I do know that I believe that the Bible is the infallible word and revelation of God. I will get back to you with my details soon. Signed, Bible Sleuth. Well, hopefully that will satisfy him.
You went all that way for that as a response? How am I supposed to believe anything you say if you don't have a clue yourself? Other than that, I found your dedication quite amusing. I think you are stalling, and I'm not very patient. FC.
What is up with this guy?